I'm really honored to be able to do this tonight. So I guess I'll just get into it. My favorite thing about AA is that you don't need a lot of time to relate to people in these rooms. My experience has been that once I am willing to take part of this program and, really work the steps, it just works out. And I get to be one of those people that actually smiles and is excited to be here. So I got sober the first time when I was 18. I am now 27, and I got 7 years sober. And the last year of it was just kind of, there's a lot of things on the outside that I could use it as excuses. Obviously, COVID happened. My best friend, Nolan, who was in the rooms, he committed suicide. My job, I traveled, I was in a different city every single week. There was just a lot of stuff going on that I could have used it as an excuse. But the reality is, I was not working the steps of AA. Basically, I was talking to old timers about it. A lot of them, they told me I was two-stepping, which is just like, I knew I was an alcoholic and I like to hang out and just chat with people and, just speak the program and not actually live it. I was one of those guys where I would share, you'd be like, that guy is super sober, like he gets it. But I was absolutely in the big book. It talks about the Sally whistling in the dark. He'd give anything to drink and get away with it. I was that guy to the very core of my being. And it goes on to say that he's at a stepping off point. You'll know a loneliness that few do, basically, I think is what it says. Something along that lines. It's not a perfect quote, but so my last day drinking, my sobriety date is February 16th, 2021. I was still kind of drunk from the night before when I ended up in treatment. I was just out of my mind. And I absolutely hit like that spot of loneliness and despair. It was that pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization that it talks about in the book. Like I absolutely experienced that. And it was a very unique experience because I thought I would never be there again. And I got to the point where I thought I was fine. I got sober when I was 18 and I ended up with 7 years sober. And a lot of those were good years. I was doing a lot of good service work there for a while. A lot of people I was super into, young people's AA specifically. I was on the Georgia conference for young people in AA. I was on the committee in 2019. I was doing stuff and making moves. And what I learned is that if I let if I don't take that daily reprieve based on my spiritual condition, if I don't ask God to help me stay sober every day and back it up with footwork, like I am destined to drink again. I thought I was immune. I was that guy that walked in the meeting. Everybody knew me. They liked me. I'm very affable, really easy to talk to, everything like that. So I just didn't think it was for me. I didn't think I was going to drink. And then I became convinced that I could drink like other people. I told myself all these things like I was just a kid. I was 18 when I got into rehab the first time. It was a fluke. All my friends are in college. They're fine. I was doing all those, just making a bunch of excuses. And I was on a date with a girl. I took a sip of beer and then I set it down and then I didn't touch it until like the end of the meal because I was like, all right, if I don't drink this all immediately, I'm not an alcoholic. Like if it lasts the whole time, that means I'm not an alcoholic. And I ended up taking like 2 sips and then I chugged it right at the end when she was like looking the other way when I was paying or something. And I was like, I'm not an alcoholic, like everything's fine. And that was in November. And within a couple months, I skipped Christmas with my parents because I had already put in PTO at work. So I was like, dude, I have 5 days where I could just drink whiskey. Like, that's all I'm going to do. And that's exactly what I did. So I knew I was pretty, and I was done for. I knew I was in bad shape already. Just when I did that, I just spent 5 days alone drinking. And it was insane because I was like, dude, a month ago, I had a single beer. Like, what is going on? And I mentioned I was having that job. I was traveling a lot. Basically, I was in a different city every week. I was making more money than I knew what to do with. Like on paper, I was crushing it. My family, they're like, dude, that's awesome. Like you're going on business trips. Like you're so professional. I bought a new car that year. I was doing all these really good things. But inside, I knew that I was totally empty. Like I had nothing behind my eyes. I was purely a consuming machine. I just and lied and stole. I did all these things I said I was never going to do. I was entirely obsessed with self. And basically that ended me up, I want to talk more about the solution, the problems, because there's a lot of people, I saw a few of those really cool, or the time count, seeing that tick by all the days. That was a really cool experience. I saw some pretty impressive numbers. And I know Like I'm more talking about like the 45 days, the 30 days, the 2 weeks of 2 days. Like that to me is more impressive than anything. Like that's more impressive than the years, without a doubt. Seeing somebody with a week, I know that's kind of cliche and stuff, but it's insane. Like I think of me in those first couple of days, like it was truly like it was a miracle that I made it. I hit some pretty low spots. I've done some really messed up things. Be drunk in my bathroom, and I was like in a psychotic episode, and I almost shot him, and like all this really crazy stuff that I never thought I'd come back. A couple of days was just pure dread. Like I had no hope whatsoever, and it was pretty wild, man. Like I thankfully still like all my friends out here in Georgia. I grew up in Denver. That's where I got sober, and I moved out here. So I only had sober friends out here because I moved when I was sober. So everyone I knew was related to the program. And thankfully, like I was able to get into treatment like the day after. I don't know what it was in that moment, but I was just willing. I went to treatment. And it was a sober living treatment, like kind of we'd go there from 9 to 5 sort of deal. And it was amazing, man. I really made it a mission of mine. I knew that if I didn't do it all the way and really fully commit to that I was, and at that point I knew like for me to drink is to die. Like there's only a few options for it. And sanitariums, death, or hospitalization, stuff like that. Like our track record isn't good. So I knew I was just going down a bad path, and really I got a sponsor. I started talking to him every day. I was working the steps. I surrounded myself with all the other people that were working programs that were there to stay sober, that were all about it. If somebody was skipping the meeting, guys that were going to the meeting, even if I wanted to just sit at home, whatever it was, like I never said no to going to a meeting. I stayed to clean up. I was helping put out chairs. I was doing all these small things. My sponsor now says it was taking small actions in defense of my sobriety every day. That's like what it is for me to stay sober today, is like, am I taking those little steps to maintain what I've got now? And it's always weird talking about like the spiritual aspect for me of the program. I grew up in foster care. I had a really, really bad childhood. Like all the abuses, I've had all of them, top down, like everything, everything bad has happened to me. I thought the world was against me. I thought God was against me. So talking about God in these meetings, even hearing it, I was the guy that would cringe. I'd be like, you don't understand what it's like. If you knew what it was like for me, then you'd know that you sound ridiculous right now talking about God. Like there is no God. It's just me. I am the only person in charge of my security. And, that was it. That's how I grew up. Especially I got adopted late. I was like 9. So to me, I just would not accept help from anybody, not another person or a higher power, So when I started to have these spiritual experiences, like I just started taking little actions. I would pray to nothing. And I would cry all the time, just like, God, please just help me. Like, I am done. I am totally defeated. I think it says in the book, we can see to our innermost selves that we are alcoholics. I did that. And unfortunately, I realized that also meant that I was totally screwed, because if you concede you're an alcoholic, like you just feel so hopeless. And thankfully, I had plenty of people to take me through the steps and to just start relying on that higher power. I did my inventory. That was a whole crazy thing. Like I had a lot of stuff on there that would imprison me, like I have a lot of crazy amends to make, some that I'll never make up. There's just a lot of stuff out there. There are a lot of reasons, a lot of excuses I could use to drink, for sure, like a lot of self-pity. And I used every bad thing that's ever happened to me, every bad thing I've ever done, all that self-pity. Basically, I just pulled it out like a victim card, like if you're playing Uno, I pulled it out like a wild card. Like I get a drink because of this. Like this is my get out of jail free. Like that's my relapse card, I guess you could say. Like that's how I viewed all these things. Like anytime I wanted to drink, I would just be like, well, I used to get beat up as a kid. So my mom's boyfriend was a real bad dude. So I'm going to drink. Or, my something mean to me. So I'm going to drink. Like they all had the same purpose to me. And I learned in AA and through the program how to not be a victim anymore and to rely on a power outside of what you could do to me or anything like that. For me, relying on a higher power is something like I can definitely tell if I forget to pray in the morning, because halfway through the day, I'm like super angry. I just don't know why, like all those little dumb things. And yeah, my life now, I'm sitting with like a little, some about a year and a half sober, I guess. And my life is entirely different. Materialistically, I don't have a lot. I'm not like a wealthy person. I see Some of my friends are like crushing it and things like that are the same age and they didn't relapse. They have all the time. And, sometimes it's easy to just be like, I wonder what could have been. But that's not very often because I'm so grateful for what I have now of mine. When I show up at a meeting, it's just the biggest thrill. I'm blessed to live in Atlanta. I'm really bad at computer stuff, so I couldn't figure out how to do my name. I accidentally left the meeting and stuff, but I live in Atlanta. There's a ton of meetings here. I have a host of friends. Like it says, we watch a fellowship grow up about us. Like I've had these experiences. And for the people out there, I saw we had 2 days and 4 days, like whether it's through Zoom, in person, it doesn't matter. As long as you make the decision to tap into that, the experiences are going to be incredible for you. Like they have for me twice, really, because I got sober at 18 back then. And over time, I just forgot. And now I'm getting sober now. And it's like I'm relearning all these things that I used to know. And I guess the biggest thing I also want to talk about is just service work. Obviously, in young people's AA, like there is a ton of opportunity to be of service, whether that's sponsoring people, cleaning up chairs, picking up the cigarette butts after the meeting, whatever you can do to help, reading names on the Zoom. That is kind of what keeps us sober, really. That's what's, in my experience, that's what's kept me sober, is doing all this stuff. Like ton of sponsees. I'm not sponsoring anybody right now. I've never been that guy. Like I see people at meetings that have like 10. I've always had like one or two, other ways to be of service. I always tend to work a lot. I was working like 12 hours. I work about 10, but it's still really busy. And I just fill my life anytime I'm not working or with my girlfriend. I'm of service to people in AA, even if that's just shooting quick texts, whatever that looks like. Just try to be a part of this, get in the middle. Yeah, that's been my experience, is helping other people. I say it a lot. I used to think like being was the lowest thing you could ever be. I remember reading the Bible as a kid and living like a servant. I thought that was disgusting. I was like, dude, I want servants to like do whatever I say or whatever. And now it's like a servant of AA, just trying to help wherever I can, whether that's at work, doesn't matter. But I get like everywhere I go on this kind of, talks in 11th step. We get easy. We don't struggle. That's absolutely my life. I just kind of take it easy and let things go kind of the way they fall. Stress out about really anything unless I want to. It's really weird. Like it's hard to explain unless you experience it, but it is possible. Like I accidentally spent all my rent money to my sober living, and instead of hitting 250, I hit $1,800, and suddenly I didn't have any money, and I panicked for like 30 minutes, like probably, I don't know, like 30 minutes. I was just cursing and like a cold sweat, and I was like, I'm fucked. And I just took a deep breath. I was like, God's got me this far. I'm sure I'll be fine. And then I ended up funding the money within like a day, and it was fine. And I was like, oh shit, all right, that was like not a big deal. Before, I would have just been like, well, I guess I'm drinking. So like being sober, just have to really throw yourself into it. Yeah. If you're still on the fence, like there's really truly no risk. My sponsor would always tell me is like, hey man, like just try it for 30 days. And if it doesn't work, like go back to what you were doing. That's fine. Nothing to lose. You're about to kill yourself anyway. So you might as well give something a shot. And then I did that. Like I just gave it an honest 30 days and I actually feel good. Like for the first time in a really long time, after just like a week of prayer and going to meetings and being of service. It's not like you could just sit there and everything gets better. Like it takes a lot of work. This is a program of action. They'll be profound. It's worked for me. It's worked for people for like almost 100 years now since AA has been around. Again, just want to thank everybody. Thank you for asking me to do this, Ross. I'm just grateful to be here. So thanks.